Tibetan medicine has been practiced for over 2,000 years in Buddhism. The basis of Tibetan medicine comes from the four tantras. The four tantras are essentially equivalent to medical books in our culture. The Buddhists believe in simplicity, and they have all the medical information they need squeezed into this one book. The Tantra is split up into 4 different books, each concerning its own particular issue. The first is called the Root Tantra. The Root Tantra focuses on diseases and why they exist. The second is called the Explanatory Tantra. This Tantra talks about the anatomy, the body, and the life cycle. The third Tantra is called the Oral Transmissions Tantra. This Tantra deals with diseases, their cause, their nature, classification, and the treatment. The fourth Tantra is simply called the Last Tantra. The Last Tantra explains the Tibetans' 18 methods of diagnosis and about treatment options.
First is a good diet, very important. So good diet means what we eat and how we eat, how much we eat and when we eat, or also drink, right? So I think that kind of concept is very important. And today,
Tibetan physicians are trained to have a true passion for their work. These physicians do not make a base pay or a salary. The physicians will accept whatever the patient can offer to them. This sometimes means that they make nothing at all. When necessary, Tibetan physicians will recommend spiritual healing to be done. In Tibetan medicine, the entire body is looked at as a whole. If the spirit is not right, it can cause illness and disease. Physicians want their patients to be spiritually healthy as well as physically healthy. The healing Buddha or medicine Buddha is usually referred to as the doctor of the world. Not only is the healing Buddha the granter of wishes for perfect health, the medicine Buddha path of light is one that leads the practitioner to enlightenment. It is said if one meditates on the medicine Buddha, one will eventually attain enlightenment. But in the meantime, one will experience an increase in healing powers for both oneself and others, and a decrease in physical and mental illness and suffering. Medicine Buddha is important to mention in Tibetan medicine because many times if a patient needs spiritual healing, they will seek out medicine Buddha for meditation. In Tibetan medicine, it is examined more closely why somebody is sick or has a disease. It is believed if one is not respecting their body and behaving in the correct way, this can cause disease and illness. There are believed to be 3 poisons that cause illness and disease. The first being ignorance, the second being attachment, and the third being hatred or aversion. Let food be thy medicine is the mantra that most Buddhists and anyone who practices Tibetan medicine lives by. Therefore, if one has an unhealthy diet, it is believed that this could be the cause of their disease or illness.
Om Namo Bhagavate 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 Maha Bhagavate Bhagavate Ranja Samangate Soha. Om Namo Bhagavate 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 Maha Bhagavate 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 Ranja Samangate Soha. Om Namo Bhagavate 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 Maha Bhagavate Bhagavate Ranja Samangate Soha. Sangye Chodang Zoge Chonam Lai Janjo Bado Dani Gyabzo Je Dage Jinso Gebe Sonam Ge Dola Pinjira Sangye Drobar Sho Sangye Chodang Zoge Chonam.
When they read the pulses, they are able to tell sort of some of the basic qualities of that person that then determine where to go next. So they're taking the basic nature of the patient, the climate that they live in, the time of year, the time of day, their physical habits, their diet habits, their emotional habits, mental habits, spiritual habits. All these aspects are taken into account. And so over the centuries, the Tibetan physicians have carefully recorded, studied, and learned how to successfully help people.
Tibetan medicine closely follows Buddha's Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths are: ordinary life brings about suffering, the origin of suffering is attachment, the cessation of suffering is attainable, and there is an eightfold path to the cessation of suffering.
The word yoga comes from the Sanskrit word yuj, which means to unite. And most people translate yoga as a verb, to do something, to unite the breath and the body, or the mind and divinity, or whatever vocabulary you're working with. But the word yoga means union. It means united. It means that everything is already inherently and intimately connected. The teachings of the Buddha are a reminder for all of us that everything is already inherently connected. The problem is we forget. We forget that we are complete as we are. And we're living in times where so many people judge themselves and don't trust themselves, and they feel a sense of lack. And this lack that they feel, which is called dukkha, which is the Sanskrit word for suffering, we experience this lack as a kind of suffering, where something in our lives is missing. And so what we do is we try and satisfy our experience of lack, our feelings of emptiness, by trying to secure a new lover, and romantic love will somehow make me feel complete. It doesn't work. Saving enough money and gaining enough capital, it doesn't work. In the yoga tradition, and also in the Buddha's teaching, we have to realize that we can't actually ground ourselves through objects outside of ourselves. And so we begin with the body. We begin with the breath. We begin by opening to the way the body really is. Not our ideas about how our body should look, or what it should do, or how it should perform, but tuning into the ways our bodies are not balanced, the ways parts of ourselves don't link up with each other, the way parts of our cells don't communicate with each other. And when we start connecting with the breath, when we start dropping deep into the body, what we're dropping into is yoga, is intimacy, is the fact that all of this is connected and interdependent. And so this is the beginning of my interest in the teachings of the Buddha and in the teachings of yoga, is that they both begin with the body. When the Buddha teaches the Satipatthana Sutta, which is his teachings on mindfulness that are so popular nowadays, his teachings are rooted in opening up to the body as a body, to feel what's going on in our body, and to use that to arrive in present experience. That way of working internally and then expressing the practice externally is the heart of the Buddha's teaching, and I think the heart of a socially engaged spiritual practice, where we're not concerned just with our own enlightenment, but with how our lives affect others and how we can serve others. Because if it's true that selfish happiness is a dead end, then we come to see that serving others is what opens up our lives, so that we can take our inner transformation and help create a social and cultural transformation. And I think this is what the Buddha was doing. When the Buddha said that the self is interconnected, he set the stage for a radically engaged social practice, where because we're interconnected, taking care of ourselves means taking care of others. And if I don't take care of myself, I can't really help others. One of the core teachings that is identical in the yoga tradition and in the Buddhist tradition is karma.
The practice of Tibetan medicine was built around Buddhism and Buddha's Four Noble Truths. One must respect their body. They show this respect by eating healthy diets, practicing daily yoga and meditation, keeping their spirituality strong, and shying away from any medicine which is unnatural.